Extra Mile. A fun and informative companion piece to go with this week's episode, which it may be best to listen to first. Ah, joy. Bang, 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 bang. Little plane flying overhead. I'm in the area where the little aircraft are, just outside. Oh. Someone is building a fence. That's going on all day, and the fence is getting nearer and nearer to the boat. So I was about to record. I decided not to record. I'm just going to do Extra Mile first. So I haven't actually recorded there you go. This is the joy. This is the joy of being an independent podcaster, where you're recording from your bedroom or your front room or wherever you can, and then you have to put up with ducks and boats and planes and motorbikes and people talking about their piles and someone building a fence for no reason. Oh, anyway, you can hear the parakeets. The parakeets are outside today. Oh, there's that. There's a guy still building his fence. Oh, it's a long fence as well. Looks like it's going to take about a week to complete. Oh, joy. Anyway, welcome to Extra Mile, the unscripted, unedited bit, which is really weird because I haven't recorded it yet. I haven't recorded the first bit yet, so this all goes out of sequence. Oh, my lord. Oh, life. Anyway, life could be worse, couldn't it? If this is the worst that life is going to throw at me this week, is some guy building an effing fence. That's not terrible, is it? Could be worse. So what's going on? We did our live shows last week, so myself and Adam and Paul did our live shows, so thank you to everyone who came to South Shields on the Sunday, and Birmingham, my own neck of the woods, on Monday. That was good. Really nice to go to South Shields. Never been there before, didn't know anything about it, and I've got quite a sunburn at the moment because the beach is really lovely. It's a really long beach, a really nice pier, and I walked along the beach in the early morning when it was empty, and then I walked along the coast, and they've got a nice old coast which used to be a quarry, and now it's kind of all built, covered over with kind of, birds and all stuff like that, and that was really lovely. I really enjoyed that. I had a nice sit down watching the waves rolling in and going out again. That was really nice. So we did that, and then we did my old neck of the woods, Birmingham, on Monday, so that was good. So thank you to everyone who turned up to that. That was really appreciated. We may be doing some more shows. We've definitely got the True Crime Convention in September, and we may plan to do some extra shows in and around the country around that point. So if you want to see us, if you want to come and see us and you didn't get a chance to see us, come and see us then. We'll announce dates at some point. And also, if you came to the show as well, you will have seen a very, very early version of what I'm going to be rolling out on the podcast in July. So there you go. I'm not going to say any more about it, because if you turned up, you'll know what it's about. If you didn't, you won't. So there we go. Still on my diet, still not working, still I'm very flabby. Still having no cake, even though I'm right next to a really, really, really good bakery, which is really annoying, but I can't go to the bakery because the problem is you go in there, it's a really lovely bakery, it's really nice, and you go in there and you buy like the one thing you want to buy, and then you see something else, you go, I'll just have one of those, and you just keep going and going and going, so it's really annoying. Anyway, oh, conversation, let's see what it's about. No, just an old couple walking past, having a look at the new fence, going, oh, are you building a new fence? And man going, yes, we're building a new fence. Oh, is that the old fence? Yes, that's the old fence. It's the old fence that looks all tatty. So this is the new fence? Yes, it is the new fence, hence it looks new. Oh, so why are you putting up a new fence? Because of the old fence, because the old fence is tatty. Oh, I see. So that's because that's the reason for the new fence. Yes, it is the new fence. But some people, Some people just want to talk, don't they? Anyway, I'm going to do this, and then hopefully the guys who are doing the fence, hopefully they'll go off to lunch, because it's almost lunch soon. So that's my fingers crossed. So a big thank you to new Patreon subscribers. Thank you to Janie I knew I was going to get this wrong. Thank you to Janie Rumley and Jax O'Leary. So thank you to Janie Romley, thank you to Jaxo O'Leary, thank you for becoming Patreon subscribers. Of course, as Patreon subscribers, you don't just get access to, I think there's almost 2,000 things that I've uploaded on there now. There's a hell of a lot. A lot of the original episodes are up there. Some of the very early extra miles that I only did exclusively for Patreon, they're up there. Some series that you'll only get on Patreon as well. There's loads of episodes of Walk With Me. Loads, if it doesn't matter what tier you're on, Bad Nanometers is on there. Loads of other goodies as well. So, yeah. So thank you to everyone for subscribing to Patreon. It's very much appreciated. I think it's like £2.20 a month or something, and you get loads of goodies for that. So if you want to support the show, please do. If not, leave a little review. They really do help us at the moment, especially, as mentioned before, big corporates taking over. Many of the big podcasts, like, you know, when I started out looking at the charts, like They Walk Among Us, Ben and Rosie, lovely people, really sweet, fabulous podcasters. They were like number one, number two, number one at the charts. They're now down 30 and 40. Podcasters like me who could only make it as far as 30 or 40 up the charts, I'm barely at 100 now. Some podcasters who I know who are really good, not even in the top 200, and that's because we're the small independents. We don't have big marketing teams. We don't have lots of money, so yeah, it's a struggle at the moment. So yeah, any positive reviews you can give is really appreciated, or telling your friends is very much appreciated. Oh, they're ripping down some trees now. Let's do some quiz questions. There are 7 questions in total. You get 10 points in total because one of them is a 3-pointer. Oh, exciting. What are they ripping down? I can't quite see. I will narrate it to you as we go by. So question number 1. In which country was Theodora born? Question number 2. What did her dad do as a job? Question number 3. What car did she drive in the races? For any of that, I'll give you a point for any bit that you get right, because it is a difficult question. Ooh. Question number 4. Roughly how fast did her car go? So if you get it within 3 miles an hour, I'll give you that. Question 5, and this is for a point each. Name her 3 daughters. You get a point for each of them. Question number 6. What estate agent did Theodora go to find a lodger? It looked like, my writing on there, it looked like it said to find a todger. That's a very different kind of agent to go to. And question number 7. Harold had been a criminal for 37 years, but how many of those years had he spent in prison? So there you go. There's 7 questions, 10 points in total. I thought I'd add in something this week instead of a bird review, because obviously the parakeets are outside, and unless you want to hear me just say bastard for about half an hour, because they're really noisy little bastards. They fly around, they make the horrible squawking noises. Yes, they're nice and green, but they're really effing annoying. I thought I'd have a weekly grumble, because you know me, I like to have a grumble. So I was looking at I've kind of gone off TikTok. I find TikTok really annoying. And I was looking at things the other day. I'm trying to work out all the social media stuff. And do you know when, like, if you've looked at my social media, I posted something about how Lady Gaga has 83 million followers, but when she posts something, she only gets, like, I think it's 0.05% of people acknowledge it. And you just go, well, that's not really good, given the amount of, you have to have hundreds of millions of subscribers in order to get any kind of traction. So I was looking at TikTok, and like a lot of people, once you get below a threshold of, like, it says 300 views, but you know it's not 300 views. You're kind of in the death throes, and it's like they don't want you to come back. And I've got one TikTok that I did that was 1.6 million views, and I thought, well, that's really good. And then I went into the notes that are in there, the kind of the analytics, and looked at it, and I realised that's not 1.6 million people who viewed it and watched it in its entirety and said, oh, I like this. Even though these are really good, only 32% of people have watched the video in full. And the vast majority have switched off the video within 6 seconds, and this is about a minute and a half. So when you think about it, it's not really 1.6 million views, is it? It's very dishonest. Really, there should be something up there that says 1.6 million views, and underneath, or more accurately, it should say what it is. So that 1.6 million views was actually viewed 32% of people watched the video in full. So when you do the maths on that, that's actually 512,000 views. So really, it's not honest, is it? I looked at some of my videos that say they have 1,000 views, but only 2% of people watch the video in full. So really, when you think about it, that should say 20 views. It's dishonest, isn't it? They should really have something in there that says, it should be totally honest and just say, right, here is how many people have fully watched that video, not how many people have kind of looked at it and gone, nah, I don't like that, it's a bit shit, and then moved on. So there you go, that's my grumble for the day. I'm bored of social media. I think it's the most brain redundant pile of crap in the world. It's an empty vacuum for people to spew their bile into, and then they sit there and they wait for people to click like, and even though quite often some people just click like just for the hell of it, and people who do actually read it mostly don't acknowledge it. It's a really vacuous space. So yeah, I'm really bored of it now. I mean, I'm bored of it for years. I'm wondering which ones to get rid of. I can't wait. I don't even look at social media. I upload shit and I walk away. I can't be arsed. Oh, my boat is being covered in leaves and twigs, and builders are getting ever nearer. So I'm glad I didn't continue my recording. Otherwise, I would have been very frustrated and people would have died. Cake of the week. I thought I'd do you a cake of the week. Don't forget, I'm still on my diet, but I did have a sneaky one last night. Last week I did have when I was travelling up north, I treat myself. Okay, I'll be honest. I treat myself to a bacon sandwich, and then a big Belgian bun, and then I had a rock cake. And if you haven't had a rock cake before, it's like a scone, but it's like someone has taken a scone before it's cooked, and they've dropped it from a big height, and it's gone splat onto the kind of base of the oven, and there it's cooked. But do you know what, they're really nice. It's kind of like a soft, scony-like treat. It's an afternoon treat you can have with a cup of tea. Type in rock cake, have a look at it. The great thing is you can store them for ages. On top, there's no real shape to them. It really is a splat. But I think that's what's nice about it, because the thinner bits on the edges get a little bit crispy, and the fatter bits are a lot more kind of soft and springy and doughy. So you get a real, even though it's the same flavour throughout, it's a real texture. You get a sprinkling of sugar on top. Especially, it's nice if it's slightly more thicker. Not icing sugar, like proper sugar. See, it's a little bit more crunchy, and then inside they always add a few raisins and cherries for even more sweetness, as if it isn't sweet enough. And because it can be a little bit dry, sometimes it's really nice with a cup of tea. So there we go, folks. all useful stuff for you to learn about. Oh my god. Anyway, let's dive into the extra stuff for this episode. So that was episode 261, Dr. Trevor's Greed. Oh shit! Oh fuck! Sorry, I totally forgot. Eva asked me to fill in this online application. Of course, it's for Drinks Direct. It's a gold card. I totally forgot about it. I meant to do it now. The great thing is, what it's going to do, because you would really think that she would have a platinum card, but she's only at gold card level at the moment. And the idea is, I fill in these details, and then it's all done online, and then basically she can press a button, I think it's when she wakes up, it goes ping, and it sends off like her regular order. And also it means I don't have to go shopping to go and get it, and therefore, sometimes it can be a real nightmare, because they say, where do you live? And I'm on the canal, and they're like, well, we can't back down a truck on the canal to unload all of Eva's booze into the boat. And I'm like, if you don't do that, she's going to get really angry. Just like I might get angry at the guy building bloody fence. So she asked me to fill that in and sign it off for it. I don't know why I have to sign it off, but let me just get that done now. Okay, so it says, Should Eva fail to keep up with payments, I consent to the following. Okay. An examination by Dr. Jesus, looks like someone fell onto a keyboard. Okay, yep, that's fine. I consent to a trip to an unnamed hotel in King's Cross. Well, I guess that's fine. You know, we all need a holiday sometime, and it says it's free, so I'm fine with that. I consent to waking up in a bath of ice. I mean, that's odd, but, you know, it's nice to have a bath, isn't it? I've only got a shower on the boat, so it's nice to have a bath sometimes. And as they say, you know, cold is really good for circulation. I've kind of got onset arthritis, so you know what, that's quite a good thing. I confirm to that. I consent and confirm that all of the following organs in my body are in good working condition. It's odd. Liver. Okay, well, it's not great, but, you know, at least it's not as bad as Eva's. Kidneys. Yeah, still functioning, just about. Heart. Broken. This must be some kind of medical for the insurance or something. I've no idea what it is.
Down the line.
That man's saying down the line. Also, they ask on the condition of my bones. I mean, they're old, but they're okay. My blood. I mean, it's 10% sugar, 30% frangipan, but basically it's fine. And as for my penis, I'll just write unused. But apart from that, everything's fine. So there we go. That's done. That's all signed off. So hopefully that will help. I'll be honest, Eva's booze bills are costing me an arm and a leg. Ha ha ha, there you go. That was the punchline. Wonderful. Right, so that's done. Eva's booze supply is en route. And, here's a reply. Thank you for your application. Please strip off and mark on your body where your liver is, so our surgeon doesn't cut out the wrong bit again. Oh, shit. I fear this isn't going to end well. I'm sorry, folks. Here's an advert while I draw a big arrow over my flab. So there we go, folks. Right, there's some extra guys turned up to build a fence. They're right outside and they're all having a lovely, lovely chat about building a fence. Hopefully the chat is gonna turn around to being, let's go off for lunch. There's a good pub up the road, so they can piss off there. Let's dive into some stuff about this case. So as we know, this gentleman is called Harold Dorian Trevor. He was 61 at the time of the murder, born roughly 1881. We know very little about him. His accent is kind of quite conflicting. His father was called George Frederick Trevor. 5'11.5" tall, so relatively tall, especially for 1940s. And he weighed roughly around just over 12 pounds, so he's relatively thin. Personality described as very talkative, often talks too much. If you get access to any newspapers, have a look at his court appearance. What the hell is that? I think some parakeets having a fight. He's said to be well-spoken, charming, eloquent. His accent is uncertain. He often spoke with a nondescript, slightly affected London accent, but with northern hints. But, you know, don't forget, this is kind of 1940s. As with most people, everyone puts on a little bit of an accent. It's like when you go home to where you come from, your old accent comes back, but when you're with different people, your accent changes as well. So it's the same with him, but he is putting on one. We know that he spent many early years in Llandudno, in North Wales. It's a coastal town, which is actually where he was arrested. It's weird, we don't know why he headed back there. I think it's like a lot of people, isn't it? When you have times of difficulty, you always go back to where things are familiar, not to where things are strange. And although I don't really think that he was stressed and upset and worried, I really do think that he was just off enjoying himself, going to all the places he'd been to before, and that was one of the places he was like, oh, I can hide out there, because he knows the area. Several aliases that he used: Thomas Young, Dr. Trevor, Harold Aitkins, Harold Philip Aitkins, Philip Trevor, Rudolph Major Banks. There were several others that are mentioned in the episode as well. I thought I'd go through his convictions as well. 13th of May 1896, he was bound over for stealing a purse. That was South London. 2nd of March 1899, bound over for fraud. That was in Stafford. So you can see he goes into prison, he comes out of prison, he commits another crime. He always moves to a different place. 21st of October 1899, he served 18 months for stealing a dressing case. That was in Middlesex. 4th of December 1900, 18 months for stealing a bag. These are almost exclusively he's stealing from lone women, often more mature or elderly women. So he stole a bag and he got 6 months for housebreaking, and that was in North London. 3rd of October 1901, 6 months for fraud at Chichester. 12th of August 1902, you can see that he literally spends very little time out in the real world. Most of it is in prison. So 12th of August 1902, 3.5 years penal servitude, plus 2 years on a suspended sentence for false pretences under the name of Philip Trevor. That's again in South London. 29th of May 1905, 5 years penal servitude for false pretences. So it's obtaining money under false pretences. What is going on with those parakeets outside? They're really annoying. 23rd of May 1911, 5 years for stealing a walking stick. You can see how, because he's a repeat offender, his sentencing is getting more and more and more each time. So the more he does, the worse it gets. 4th of July 1914, so at the start of the First World War, 3 years penal servitude plus another 7 years penal servitude. That was consecutively for obtaining items by false pretenses, larceny, and he was described as a habitual criminal, and he used the alias of Rudolph Major Banks. So it's around this point that he's starting to work out not just to use a name but or an alias, but to use a new identity, to use a different voice, to use a costume, to become that person. 7th of December 1918, he married Cecily Taylor at Fulford in Yorkshire. He was 38, she was 31. It seemed like one of those marriages of convenience at that point. We don't know why he married her. We certainly don't know why she married him. We don't know how they kind of met and fell in love, but it did seem to have happened. But it didn't make him a better man. In fact, it kind of made him worse. And it's not like he had a family and children and he was going out of his way to try and make their lives better. What he was doing was thinking about himself. He'd kind of got a good taste for expensive items at that point. So as mentioned, he posed as an aristocrat called Sir Charles Warren. Charles Warren was the commissioner for the police in the 1880s, so it's likely that he probably liked true crime books and read that. He also used the name Lord Herbert, and he would always try and ingratiate himself with the wealthy, usually elderly women, and he would rob them and swindle them. But there was no violence in his history. Like, if you look at all of the crimes he committed, it's not like he went up to someone and he would beat them over the head and then rob them. His was about kind of trying to charm them, trying to swindle them, getting annoyed at aircraft flying over. You see how hard it is to record on the boat. When you listen to the first bit, it all seems nice and clear and clean, and that's because I spend hours cleaning up the audio and making it really nice and clean. This is how it sounds when I'm trying to record it. Normally at that point I would have gone very silent and waited for the bugger to bugger off. Oh, hence these recordings take hours. So yeah, even the lawyer for the prosecution, J.W. Burns, said his apparent aim was to avoid work and live in the style and comfort he affected in his impostures. Basically, he came from nothing. He learned to love the finer things in life, and he wanted to stay that way. So again, when he came out of prison, 8th of January 1919, so the end of the First World War, He served 5 years penal servitude for the theft of jewellery under the name of Harold Philip Trevor. He's not very inventive with his names, is he? He kind of goes with, like a lot of people, he goes with variations of his own one, and then for no reason he'll jump onto something really crazy. 4th of August 1925. I can't concentrate with these parakeets. They're really doing my nutting. And the dog down the path is having a bark as well. 4th of August 1925, 5 years penal servitude plus another 10 years for larceny and false pretences. So escalating every time. And on the 27th of April 1936, 5 years penal servitude plus an extra 3, and his licence revoked for larceny from a dwelling, i.e. a house, and receiving stolen goods, of which in that he asked for 30 cases of theft to be taken into consideration. Sometimes the police do that, sometimes the accused will do that, where they will ask for other crimes to be taken into consideration. Like if it's burglary, they'll go, yes, I committed a burglary and I would like 30 others to be taken into account. Because if you're going to be charged with burglary, you're going to get your 3 years. And if you take the other ones that the police say you committed on top of that as well, you won't get 30 times 3, you'll get 3. And they'll go, well, it's these multiple burglaries, you serve 3. So even if the police turn up later on and go, oh, we've got evidence that you committed this, if you've already done your prison time for 3 years for all of those burglaries, basically you've wiped the slate clean on that. Unfortunately, quite often in that era, the police would kind of come up with ones, and because they wanted to clear their records as well, rather than having ones dotted around. You know, you see this quite often, especially in the old cases where the police would turn around and go, okay, if you agree to saying that you committed these burglaries as well, of which we don't have to prove anything, therefore we will go more lenient on you and we'll try and help that you don't get put away for a long time. And you know what? It's what they would do. So with this case, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because it's good couple of decades, so I was trying not to give away the quiz question then, good couple of decades of him committing these crimes, and there's no violence in them at all. There's no violence, there's no threatening behaviour, he doesn't tie the ladies up, he doesn't hit them over the head and render them unconscious, and yet with this one he does. And I think that's kind of what's interesting with this case. I don't think he meant to murder her. But again, it seems an interesting thing that he would knock her over the head and render her unconscious. And I think what it was the fact that when he came out of prison when he was 61, and don't forget this is the 1940s. So the average age of a person, 61 is really clocking it in the 1940s. That's a real good age, especially for a working class person. So I'm guessing he's thinking to himself, I'm probably not going to last much longer. Maybe he had an illness and we just don't know that. If he goes into prison one more time, that's probably going to be 5 years, maybe 5 to 8 years, something like that, by which time he'll be mid-60s, close to 70s. Half of me is actually thinking, is this a last hurrah? Is this kind of him going, if I don't commit a big robbery now, therefore, what will happen? What will happen to him? He'll end up in prison. He's thinking to himself, maybe I just have to have a big splurge now, which is why he doesn't seem to have put any money away. He seems to have gone on a bit of a spending spree, and almost like it was roughly like £5,900, and he's almost entirely splurged it right there and then. So, yeah, could be it. Could be the reason why. We just don't know. The arrest itself. Saturday the 18th of October 1941. In the morning he had breakfast. He was in the hotel. A civil servant who was staying there showed the staff a photograph in the Daily Express and said it looked very similar to the man. They did nothing about it at that point. They're just trying to get through their day. And the man, that's Harold, left at about 10:30 a.m. But the chef in that hotel asked that the police be notified, and the police arrived shortly afterwards. PC Richard Thomas, although in the press they also list him as William Thomas, but in other press they also list him as David Thomas. Either way, his name's PC Thomas. He'd only been a reserve policeman for 2 weeks, having just left his drapery business. Don't forget it's wartime, so people are being asked to become reserve policemen if they're not fit enough to join the forces. And as mentioned, he was so new he hadn't even got a police uniform, so it was hard for him to make arrests. So because he was so new, he approached another policeman and asked them if they could accompany the man to the station. PC Thomas was standing at the bottom of Queen Street. He said, "When I saw the prisoner Trevor pass on the other side of the road, I noticed that he answered the description of the Dr. Trevor who was wanted for murder in London, so I followed him. He went into a cafe and came out a few seconds later. He walked along Wellington Road and into Queen Street, where he entered a telephone kiosk. I then ran quickly to the police station and returned with Sergeant Jones. Trevor was still in the kiosk and we waited for him to come out. Sergeant Jones questioned him. Inspector Milligan then joined them and they walked him to the police station, so he came relatively quietly. When he was initially... So he was taken to the police station. He initially gave the name of Thomas Young, which was one of his aliases. And he said that he was 45... That's pushing it a bit, mate. He's 61 at the time. And he said that he was of Moseley in Birmingham, which was where he just sold off some of the stuff. He then admitted to Inspector Flincher of the Real Police. And he admitted to larceny of Mrs. Greenhill's property. He gave a statement which filled in 15 pages of the officer's notebook. At 10 p.m, Detective Chief Inspector Salisbury arrested him and said that they were going to take him to Notting Hill Police Station. And at the police station he said, "I did not do the murder, but I stole stuff." On him at that point, he'd got a hairbrush, a fountain pen, a brown leather wallet, a compact, a book of stamps, a national provincial checkbook in the name of Mrs. Greenhill. There you go. Also in there was a handbag mirror, a black leather note case, 2 keys, a small purse, which he admitted there from the Sloane Street job. So that's the one with Bertha. That was the first one he stole from. All were identified by Mrs. Greenhill's, one of her daughters, which is a quiz questioner, so I won't mention that, and Bertha, who's of Sloane Square. This popped into the episode, this popped into the research, but I didn't pop it in the episode. So the chief inspector and another detective were handcuffed to Harold Dorian Trevor during the 7-hour train journey back from London. So they're going from Rhyl all the way back to London, during which time it is said, quote, Trevor had 2 bottles of beer and several cups of tea. In total 6 bottles of beer were purchased, but the defence, Mr. Curtis Bennett, said the statement made by Trevor was not a voluntary one, but was induced to make it after a long and tiring journey, during which he consumed a considerable quantity of beer. He had 2 bottles of beer. That's not exactly a considerable quantity, unless he's a massive lightweight. Vincent Evans for the defence posed the idea that the second statement, this one, the one he made later at the police station, should go in with the depositions but not be read, and all agreed with that. The useful thing with this is that even though he did give a confession, and even though it was admitted in court but wasn't read out in court, there was so much evidence against him that in the end they kind of didn't need it. And when you consider the fact that he is a massive liar, everything about him is about lying, and he's just making shit up left, right and centre, it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't use that. I thought they would have gone off to lunch, the guys making the fence, but no, they're still here. Oh, joy. Looks like I'll be recording this episode tonight. That's fine. With the police, he said it was not murder. There was never an intent of murder. I hit her I hit her and my mind went completely blank. At the trial, Detective Inspector Salisbury of Scotland Yard denied the suggestion that Trevor was suffering from a blackout when the offence was committed. Trevor claimed he had no recollection of the attack, and in court said, after I hit her, my mind went blank, and it still is now. Something seemed to crack in my head. As you can see throughout this, he's constantly trying to use the idea that that he's insane. Even with his own lawyers, he never raised the idea that he could be insane until after he was sentenced and given a death sentence, and this came into his appeal. And even at that point, it was a week before his appeal was due, and he turned around to his lawyers and said, "Oh yeah, I was declared insane when I was 13 years old," of which they checked and they couldn't find any evidence for that. Some of his relatives did say that they suspected that he was insane, but as we mentioned before, sometimes when people are arrested for a crime and then they go and interview people who know them, sometimes the people turn around and go, "Oh yeah, I always thought he was going to be a murderer," and you just go, "Well, you never said that in your life, and now suddenly you're like, oh, look at me, how smart I am. Yeah, I always thought this." It's like, no, you didn't, you tit. Oh dear. Even in his second statement as well, you can see the kind of arrogant inside of him as well, that he's constantly denying this. In the episode, we go on about how he never apologised to the family. He only talked about himself. He was blaming everyone else, saying, "Oh, they're responsible for this, not me." And he said, the suggestion in the first... This is not him yet. The suggestion in the first statement that he had stolen items while Theodora was out, having obtained a key. He said, "I shall be able to definitely prove that I was at a hotel at the time of the murder. On Monday, the 13th of October, the detective interview... no, he said, on Monday... Oh, I'm distracted by that noise outside. It's really annoying. Really frustrating. On the 13th of October, he said, I interviewed Mrs. Greenhill in connection with the flat. The next day we went to lunch at my invitation at a London hotel. The police checked this out. It turned out to be bullshit. She had some shopping to do, and I induced her to let me go back to the flat. She gave me the key, and I went back to the flat and took her bag." So there you go, folks. Let me just pop and see if I can find something here. Where is it? It was one of the places where he visited before. So do you know he was visiting all of these different women? So we got 42 Holland Road, 6 Norland Square, 9 St James's Road. I'm trying to find which one it was. One of these places. He seems to have convinced the lady. So, so 9 St James's Gardens. Dr. Trevor arrives, views the flat, agrees to take the flat for 2 guineas a week. He left, and then he came back and he said he'd really love to move into the place. So the lady agreed that he could stay that night. Now, if you think about it, he's still living in a lodging around that point. So she kind of agrees. She said, yeah, that's fine. If you want to check this out, you can stay over at the flat that night. So he gets a nice stay in a flat, and then he leaves the next day. He steals a couple of stuff, but he doesn't leave her with any money, and it gives him the opportunity to get his 2 guineas back as well. So, yeah. Apparently, he also got access to a hire car. So he went to a place called Fricker's Garage on Holland Park Avenue and ordered a car which drove him around. So he kind of knows how to do this properly. He knows how to kind of steal stuff from people. But he's on one side of the criminal fence. He's good at sometimes what he does, but on other ends, as we've seen, he's a bit shit. 4 hours in her flat, more than 4 hours, and he left behind a piece of paper with her writing on, with his name on it, and his visiting card, which had his name on it as well. What an idiot! Anyway, let's do some quiz questions. Don't forget the 7 questions, and there's 10 points in total. So, In which country was Theodora born? That was in Wales. Lovely Wales. All right, but... so that was up in Anglesey, which is north coast. Question number 2. What did her dad do as a job? He was co-owner of the Illustrated Sporting and Dramatic News. So he was a co-owner, kind of journalist, sports journalist. Question number 3. What car did she drive in the races? If you get any part of this right, I will give you a point for it. So it was a 6 horsepower Daimler Parisian. So if you said Daimler or Parisian or Paris, I'll give you a point for that. Roughly how fast did the car go? Up to 3, so anywhere near 3 miles an hour for this. It was 23.7 miles an hour. So if you did 20 or 26, I'll give you that. Coot and Moorhen are having a fight outside. Every day. This is what I have to deal with every day. So when you do listen to the first part, which I haven't recorded yet, marvel at how clean the audio is. That takes me ages. So question number 5, and this is for a point each. Name her 3 daughters. So you get a point for each of them. Catherine, Sylvia, Virginia. We don't hear much about Virginia in this episode because she's already moved out. By that point, she's moved on. Question number 6. What estate agent did Theodora go to find a lodger? Not a todger, a lodger. They were called Sladen and Stewart. And question number 7. Harold had been a criminal for 37 years, but how many years had he spent in prison? Well, to show what a crap criminal he was, he'd spent 35 years in prison. So there we go, folks. Hope you enjoyed that slightly messy walk with me. Noisy, there's crap going on, there's planes flying over, there's boats going past, there's wildlife getting up to shit, there's a man shouting about crap, there's a fence being built, and I haven't lost my shit yet, which is good for me. So there we go, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. Next week, another one-parter, and then we'll get into a month-long run of something really interesting. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Have a good week, folks. Stay safe, be good, lots of love, and thank you for supporting the show. Stay safe. Bye bye.